Stephen Brown is a native of South Carolina, a lifelong conservative activist. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. My dad was in the United States Air Force, actually, and met my mom in England. So I was actually born in England before we moved back to the States. My dad's from Charleston. I grew up there, went to the public schools until the time that I had the opportunity to go to prep school at the Phillips Exeter Academy in Exeter, New Hampshire. And while I was there in the 1976 election cycle, Ronald Reagan, Governor Reagan, decided to seek the presidency of the United States. I was excited by that. I was a kid just learning about politics. I became a Youth for Reagan volunteer, and that's what turned me on to politics. And from there, I went on to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. And while there, I got actively involved in Republican politics, the college Republicans, and became the state chairman of the college Republicans in Maryland. And in 1980, I was in college, very active in the Reagan campaign, and I went to Detroit as one of the Youth for Reagan leaders and was there at the convention when Ronald Reagan was nominated to be President of the United States. Very exciting time. All that had a great influence on my political thinking. So I came back home to South Carolina. I went to law school at the University of South Carolina. I practiced law as a specialist in labor and employment law. I have a great interest in politics, a great interest in American history and in the U.S. Constitution. So I've done a good bit of work in that area, particularly with election law issues. And with my political involvement, it led to me becoming chairman of the Greenville County Republican Party. So throughout my career, I've been involved in Republican politics, but always as a conservative activist. I've got somewhat of a history of perhaps being that fly in the ointment as far as the Republican Party is concerned, because my whole effort is about having the Republican Party as the vehicle for the conservative movement. That includes when I ran for the U.S. Senate back in 1998. I ran an unsuccessful Senate campaign at that time, but I was certainly the conservative in that race, and there have been many issues over the years where I've taken that effort and made an effort to push and prod the Republican Party to be, as I said, the vehicle for the conservative movement. In fact, I became somewhat disillusioned with the Republican Party in the mid-2000s. With a Republican president and even with control of Congress by the Republicans, I saw the Republicans doing things that I didn't agree with. Because if you recall, it's hard to remember this now with the Obama budgets, the Obama deficits, as outrageous as they are. But if you can think back to 2005, 2006, before the Democrats took control of Congress, Republicans were in control, and at that time they were passing budgets larger than the Democrats had ever done before them. That did not sit well with me. Republicans, under the leadership of a Republican president, passed Medicare Part D, the biggest social program that had been passed in years. Again, that was thanks to the Republicans. The Republicans tried to push through an amnesty bill for illegal immigrants. And one of the biggest issues facing our nation is getting control of the border. And I was most upset by that. Thankfully, our junior senator, Jim DeMint, led that effort and stopped cold that bill, which I was very thankful to see. The point of all that is, I've not been pleased with everything that the Republican Party has done. What I want to see is the conservative faction within the Republican Party, the dominant faction, become the controlling faction of the Republican Party. My efforts, as I've said, is to make the Republican Party the vehicle for our conservative movement. We want constitutional conservatives elected to office as Republicans, and that's what I'm working to make happen.